Now, over the years, many different franchises have had their fair share of attempts in all forms of success and failure and varying styles, from movies, shows, games, and even comic books and stage plays. And this is especially said about the heroes in a half shell of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, who has been through it all. Since their introduction in the mid-80s, these four brothers of Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, and Raphael have all been keeping the streets of New York safe from all forms of evil like Shredder and the Foot Clan, the other mutants like Bebop and Rocksteady, Krang, and many other more that are hiding in the shadows under the mentorship of their father figure of Master Splinter, and friends with human reporter of April O'Neil and Casey Jones, and have done so in the form of a multitude of different cartoon series, animated films, early 90s live-action movies, somewhat over-the-top mid-2010s live-action films that creeped at many people, and of course, some very popular comic book series and video games, as well as some stage plays and music videos. Get a clip of it, that one there somewhere. But yeah, it's a mix of popularity and varying degrees of success or mixed reception. But now, here we are today with an all-new attempt at the newest film adaptation of the Turtles with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, that's mainly been developed from forever teenager Seth Rogen. But the question to ask is this film good? Well, there is some issues, but I think this is one of the best Ninja Turtles films out there, and I'll explain over the course of different sections today. Now, for a lot of the plot for those uninitiated with their backstory, the origin of the Turtles was that they were small pet turtles that were infused with a chemical dubbed as ooze. That gave them an anthropomorphic form as well of their master Splinter, who teaches them the art of martial arts, and soon they will use them to protect their home in New York from those that want to destroy it or take over the world. Now, there is that element of it being a somewhat origins of the Turtles in this one as well, but there is a little more to it, with the plot as follows for this film in particular. After years from being sheltered from the human world, the Turtle brothers set out to win the hearts of New Yorkers who want to be accepted as normal teenagers. Their new friend, April O'Neil, helps them to take on a mysterious crime syndicate, but they soon get in over their heads when an army of mutants is unleashed upon them. Now, while there is some of the element of the original concept in there, adding more of the case that they are not the only mutants in this world, and them feeling like they found people who they belong with and feel that sense of acceptance they want to have. And when it seems like it is more than just finding one another, but rather than for them to take over the world, then they will find what it means to be heroes and for the acceptance of family, or the importance of family, of course. Sure, some aspects of this mutant aspect does feel a little push near the last act kind of thing, and goes by quick that it can affect it a little, but I am sure they'll establish it more with the sequel and the firm planned series. But for what they have in this film, it's a straightforward and understandable film. So to score this one, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's good. There's some instances that would be fixed, but we'll talk about that later.
So sorry, I didn't introduce my peeps.
Now, this film is boasting quite an array of characters for this time around, as with being Mutant Mayhem, they have a lot of characters and mutants to go through, and since there is a lot, some of them will be grouped into one group, and some have a varying amount of focus in this film, but we'll give a focus to each of them in a few. So we'll start, of course, with the brothers. I was initially going to put this as a separate piece for each of them, but I felt I may as well put them together, as I feel it would be more structured to put them as one, because I feel four brothers of Leo, Don, Raph, and Mikey are the highlight of this film, as they feel the most fleshed out of the film as we follow them for most of it, and their journey of coming out of their shadows and becoming heroes to the people of New York, and for once they actually feel like teenagers, and also voiced by teenagers as well. This is surprising, you gotta think about this. They're called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but all the time the last few movies are voiced by adults. Each of them still have their quirks, like Leo is the leader that wants to do it right by orders, Raphael is the hothead that will use his fine to do the talking, Donatello is the somewhat shy one but will be more tech savvy one, and Mikey's kind of the wild card who will want to just vibe and eat pizza while being there for his brothers. And the chemistry between them feels authentic and natural, and it would sure be the standout. I mean, it was a case that because there was such a good connection between the four cast members of the Turtles, they had to rewrite the entire film, so you get the gist of it. Of course, like many students of the martial arts, they need a mentor, and that is with their father figure of Master Splinter. Now, Splinter in this is more of a nervous recluse that has been rejected by many in society and other creatures, and tried to do so when the boys were older, but then made it a case not to do it again. Now he's trying to protect them from the humans for not seeing them as equals, and he does his best to do and care for his boys. Now he does have some form of use near the end, and he does appear sporadically throughout the film, but again, Splinter does make much more of a smaller role than most other media of TMNT, So I do get that. And when they do give him some moments, it is done well. It's funny and it's cool too, so I'll give him a pass in this, as he is a good character in this in particular. And now for the character that has probably the most screen time after the Turtles is their human friend of April O'Neil. Now she does have some well-established role of wanting to become a journalist and reporter, but some aspect of it is of an incident she is mocked for, but wants to give another try, and she does help the Turtles to try and take down the large organization who have been causing a major crime wave in the city, learning to prove her credibility as a journalist. Yes, there's an incident in this movie that goes on a bit too overlong and it's a bit too gross, I kind of feel, but I'll talk about that later. Now, I do like her for a character that has some form of flaws, that she wants to be a reporter but has anxiety of being on camera, and I like is keeping her persona from the original comics and show in check, and it works, and I think that they did April much better than the ones from the Bay movies where all she was made in that one was basically to be sexualized by all of our male characters, and even the Turtles. Particularly more in the first one. I think they toned it down a good bit in the second one, but I think there's still emphasis of like the sexualization. I mean, like, the opening of the second film literally has her dressing as a schoolgirl. It's weird. But yeah, I think April O'Neil in this is really well done. So I want to give this focus to the two characters of the mutants because I feel out of all of them, they have the most of a presence and a bit of a personality. So our essentially main villain and mutant villain in particular is without a doubt the character of Superfly. Now he's essentially the very first mutant character that we actually meet in this film, as we are introduced to his creator of Baxter Struckman, who had created the secret formula for making mutants before he was taken out by the task force by Symbiote Ultron, who we'll talk about next. Now his methods are reasonable and wants to get back against those that wronged him and turn the world into mutants to be accepted and ruled them, but there is always flaws in the plan like that, but how it's done is fine enough. Another one instance that his origin is changed is in the canon of the TMNT universe. Superfly was actually supposed to be the cross-species transformation of Struckman, but they seem to have changed that concept because I guess they didn't want to freak out the younger audiences and explain why this creator has about less than like 3 minutes of screen time. I mean, there's much more darker stuff they've shown in kids movies this year. Do I need to even emphasize the spot? But for what is there, besides the change, I think Superfly is a decent villain and voiced well by Ice Cube. And as for the other mutant that has a bit of a personality focus is with Mondo Gecko, who would be the dimwit that seems to be cool and sees everyone as his bro and just chill vibes all around. Now, I like his characterization and he does have some funny moments, and I think it's just the charisma of the voice of Paul Rudd that helps it a little more, but it seems to be the one besides Superfly that gets some form of a personality. Even if it's only for a smaller increase over the others, it is a good addition all the same. I think he's a new character, but I'm not 100% sure. As for who I would see as the human villain of this film, it would be the character of Symbiote Ultron. She is the one that kicks off the whole craze of the Mutant Mayhem when she hunts down Baxter Struckman, who causes the ooze to be leaked into the sewers and create the Turtles and all the others, and she's looking to harness that power for her own powerful gain. Now, she's not much of a vocal presence of a villain in this right now, but she does have her moments dodged throughout as she's trying to locate the mutants to harness their energy, as well as learn the one responsible for their tech being stolen. There is a sense that she'll have more of a focal presence more in the follow-ups, but I think she is fine here, but could be better. But it's just fun. Now when it comes to the name of Mutant Mayhem, it means about a large collection of other mutants of Superfly's gang. Now besides Mondo, we also have Bebop, Rocksteady, Genghis Frog, Ray Fillet, Wingnut, and Leatherhead. Now while it's cool to see those cool design mutants and characters all in one film and keeping it close to the ones in the comics, movies, shows, and games, I'm gonna be honest, we do not get much of a development with these characters. We get some lines of use of them in certain scenes once we're introduced to the group around the, let's say, halfway mark of the film, but they don't really add much to the film besides the likes of Superfly and a bit with Mondo. Now you'll get that when you want to focus on other characters more, and similar to the recent Spider-Verse where they focus on a specific group wherein there was over 240 Spider people in that one film, that it can be hard to give a focus to everyone. I'm sure in follow-ups and a series may get them more of a focus, but we'll have to see what direction that goes in. Overall, I think the selection of characters is a decent roster that they have for this film, and I think they did well with the Turtles and some other allies and enemies. Sure, they have their issues, and a good bit of the mutants have been not given much of a decent screen time and have its issues or development in this film, but I'm sure what is planned to continue going forward, they will get a bit more of a focus, but I don't think it is to a level that it drags down the whole film, so it's not too bad of an issue. Overall, I'll give it a 7 out of 10 for the characters. It could be better with the mutants and stuff like that, but you know, you get what you get.
I like your vibe.
I like your vibe.
I like your vibe.
Now, if there's one thing I can give some near unanimous praise for, it is done with the presentation. Set pieces, character designs, and faithfulness to the source material, with some small differences. Now, I'll start with its praise that the animation looks so good. Like, it's beautiful. It's stylized well and is following the way of Spider-Verse, Puss in Boots, Mitchell's First Machines, and probably many more that will follow in giving things its own unique style of animation, where this one is heavily inspired by the doodles of someone's notebook for their designs, world building, and flair, fair that it, to me, also has a bit of a watercolor painting with some things like the lighting and the shadows. I think it's just me, but some of the characters, mainly the turtles, have like a few points that makes it look like stop motion claymation. But I think it's just the aesthetic of the animation that makes it look like so many at once. I think it helps to bring the turtles and the mutants to life. It also helps with some cool action scenes that make it feel more appealing to watch, like the Flash Cut Gang takedown scene in the middle where the turtles are looking for the location of Superfly. And the way they showed this off is very well done, and it's flashy, quick, it's full of energy, it's fun, and it's just some great use of the animation to its full potential. I hope that the TV series and sequel will follow with the same style and up the ante a little as well. Kind of like how Spider-Verse upped the ante from Into the Spider-Verse. The same can be said on the character designs, as they have all the distinct look and feel that everyone is different, that it's easy to know who's who. The turtles all have their different body proportions to help differentiate and to show their styles. Like Raph would be more bulkier one, is he's the one that wants to go in just straight battle force, while Donnie would be the slimmer one that want to use his tech and weapons in a situation like that. Mikey would be the smaller one but more hyperactive, and Leo would be the all-around one to balance out as the leader of the brothers. It's the same said for the mutants, of showing their designs with and their effects that the ooze has on them, from missized limbs to defects and even a little the strange mask that has a form of sentience, but it helps to keep it close to how they are in the canonicity. But speaking of, the respect to its material is very well established from its backstory and to most of its characters. Sure, one or two of the backstories are changed and characters are altered to being separate entities, but it's also small nitpicks and probably had to do with to not scare some younger audiences. Besides some changes to the backstories of certain characters, the rest of the source material is there and the animation helps along with it. And I think they have done it with justice with just that. Score-wise, I'm looking around 9.5 to a 10. I might consider it once I get to the ending of it, but I think it's around that point.
We must use stealth and cunning to infiltrate the human world and retrieve Go-Gurt.
Now, in the case of the writing and humor of this film, I would say it is a little mixed in one aspect to me. Now, while there is a genuine sense of established writing and story of the characters in this film, from the somber moments, the action scenes, and down moments, it does get affected a little by the use of the constant references, as they tend to drop the names of actual products, films, and other things throughout, and it is a frequent thing near the first half of the film that it gets very noticeable and can feel a little bit distracting and a little odd mentioning of certain things in the world established with Talking Mutant Turtles. Now, it's a case I know there's instances of product placement, but it emphasized this product placement. It's okay, but when it's like really tacked on to the point it's like nearly sounds like a founding of things like remember the time. Thankfully, it does reduce down slightly in the second half and it's not as frequent, but I feel that reducing the amount of the references may make it feel a little more balanced. Now, some of that comes with the humor, as some references are presented for the use of a gag or laugh, and some do work well. There is some other good jokes and visual gags that land a laugh or two, and are running jokes that would get a chuckle once or twice, but may push to nearly milking it for overusing it in the film. I think there's a good amount of it here, and it's not the level of a lot of it being forced type jokes, but it works to its extent. And as for the music, the score and soundtrack does have a good balanced use of its score in this film, with a lot of the recognized tracks fitting certain aesthetics of the scenes presented from set pieces and action scenes. Although one of them that does feel a little weird is hearing a meme version of a song in this film, and it does feel odd, but it's a one-off, and I'm not going to cause much of an issue with it. It's weird, but you know, get used to it. As for like the score, it does provide the mood of certain aesthetics like summer moments, the peaceful scenes, instead of something that looks like an action scene and moments of a dilemma being presented to the audience is done well. I think the composer of Trent Reznor, which is the lead vocalist of Nine Inch Nails, does work well for this film and has a good track record, and I would listen to the fair few songs of the soundtrack now and again in the future, because there's some good songs I recognize in this and that's pretty good. Writing overall in this and music, I'd give it around 7.5 to 8 out of 10. I think it's around that good aestheticness.
No.
Now, of course, it's not always going to be perfect, as there's going to be some issues that come with the media piece, and it does have some of the issues like I mentioned at the top of this review. Some are only really small nitpicks that could be fixed in the sequel or series, but I will go through the issues now. So starting off with story and characters. This one is going to be combined, as I felt they underused most of the other mutants that they were introduced in this film and didn't flesh them out much besides some small focus now and again in the second half. Like, it's a case where you have like characters like Bebop and Rocksteady more developed in the previous movie of Ninja Turtles than they are in here, which is saying something when you got John Cena and Seth Rogen as the characters. I'm sure they were working with what they had given, I believe some reworks as I mentioned with the scripts, but I'm sure that the series and sequel will come along that hopefully will improve them anyway. Presentation. Now, not much to change. I know some aspects of the lore were altered, but that is a very minor thing that I can look over for the better flow of this film. And lastly, just with the writing, humor, and music, mainly it's just on the writing side, I feel they have overdone it a little too much with the references to other pop culture that it feels a little weird to see that. I know there's such thing as product placement as I mentioned, but I feel it's more of the references in the product placement for the most part. Some things did appear that did show up. As well as case, one or two jokes maybe didn't land, but you get that with most things. And music, I do not have much to complain on with it. I think the music is actually pretty good. Just a case of the jokes and the writing kind of being overdoing of the references and maybe some jokes being overdone, but that's really aesthetic. They're all really the aspects I would complain about, but this is just some minor things, a good bit here and there. If it was way overdone, it would be a lot more of a major concerning problem with this movie, but here's just some small nitpicks that are bound to happen, and I'm sure they will improve upon its follow-up.
My man.
But overall, what I feel they have done here is a great showing of making something that has had a long history of adaptations in film, TV, and varying success and failures in terms of all of them, including comics, stage plays, and everything like that. I think that Mutant Mayhem has done a fantastic job of bringing something fresh and new to the franchise, while also feeling familiar to the fans since the beginning. Sure, there were some issues with it, like some of the characters and could add more to the story to make it slightly longer, but what we have here is something fun, it's fast, it's visually appealing to witness, and overall a fun time with the movies. Now, we do not know when we'll see the Heroes in the Half Shell again with the planned projects of the sequel and the spin-off series, but I know is that I may give a look into it when the time comes to see more of the Turtle power. So, to give the final scores of things, I'm going to give the story a 7.5 out of 10, I'm going to give characters a 7, I'm going to round the presentation to a 10, I'm just going to give it to it, and then writing, I'm going to give it a 7.5, giving the total score of 32 out of 40, or an 80%. So yeah, it's pretty good, strong there. Now, if you like this review, of course, let me know what your thoughts are down below, and if you do have seen this film yourself, let me know your opinions on the film, and if you liked or disliked it, and leave your own thoughts on it down below, because if you like it, that's great. If you didn't like it, that's totally great too. You all have your own opinions. I'm not going to judge, and you don't have to go off my own opinion anyway. I just give the cases like are recommending. But I'd like to have a conversation with all you about what you think about the films, and as well as about how I can improve some of these videos and like reviews and stuff like that. But anyway, as always, I appreciate your support on the videos. If you like them, give a like and subscribe if you want to see more content. I try and upload at least once a week, and share around to other people that might enjoy it as well. And as always, I hope you all stay being wonderful people, because you all are wonderful people, and have a great day every day. And I'll see you all in the next video. So take care, everybody, and goodbye.